All right, everybody, welcome back. The questions concerning lithium-ion batteries are not limited to fires. After an event or release, how are we to proceed, and what are the environmental concerns? Cathy Kiley has been with the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection for over 26 years, predominantly with the Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup. Currently, she is with the Emergency Planning and Response Coordinator supporting emergency response readiness for the Emergency Response Program in the Marine Oil Spill Prevention and Response Program. Lot there. Coordinating with other state and federal agencies. To provide us with guidance with the environmental hazards, concerns, and requirements, please welcome Cathy Kiley from DEP.
Thank you all for having me here today, and let me know if you can't hear me in back. Hopefully you be able to do so. Really happy to be here talking about this important issue, and it really touches on so many different aspects. And I just want to touch on some of the things that our agency is involved with these lithium-ion battery responses. One, we want to just kind of go through some of the types of responses that we've been involved with over the last couple of years. One of the questions we ask, when it is a fire and there's a lot of water that's being used to address it, what are some of the sensitive receptors nearby? And we'll kind of go through some of the examples of that. Obviously, the disposal, how do you dispose of this lithium-ion batteries or the waste? That's a big issue. And then there's also a lot of other issues that are coming into play now, whether it's ferries or battery storage development, battery storage units. So those are starting to be developed around the state as well. So just some various examples, the bikes, the Tesla e-bikes. We've got the Tesla e-vehicles, battery packs that a lot of homeowners have, from whether it's power tools or lawn equipment, the scooters, as I said, ferries, the disposal. And an example here, that would be what a large battery storage area that's being proposed in Carver. So about a year ago, we started collaborating with DFS about how to handle, how are we handling the response and the disposal aspects. And we were happy to collaborate with DFS on the guidance, the advisory that came out last February that, as you know, addressed the vape devices, computers, cell phones, personal mobility devices, as well as e-vehicles. And in all those cases, DEP, our position was that the owner of the lithium-ion battery device would hire a haz waste transporter or contractor to transport and dispose of the battery and the container using a hazardous waste manifest. If they're not able to do so, or they're reticent, or they're unwilling, or they don't have the means, DEP may hire a contractor to do that. They'll be able to collect and transport and have that waste disposed of as hazardous waste. And the 800 number, I believe, is also in the advisory. So at the same time that advisory was coming out, we made sure to provide this updated list to the fire service. So DEP agencies are broken into four different regions around the state: Western, Central, Northeast, and Southeast. And for each of the regions, we've developed a one-page list. And this is actually a list of haz waste transporters that would typically work in that region. And it would be for any emergency response, not just lithium-ion, but any oil or other hazardous material as well. But what we've done is we've highlighted, we've bolded those contractors that are also under our DEP's contract, and we further identified those fewer ones that are able to, because not every contractor will do so because of the risks that they have to take for transporting and disposing of it. So if you go to, I've made sure the link, and I know you'll have the slides available to you. There's a link to the DEP each of these 4 sheets and to see those responders in your region, and the ones specifically that handle lithium-ion battery responses, I've highlighted here. They're also bolded and has an asterisk on the sheets on the website. This isn't the only list of transporters, so if for some reason you or somebody is interested, there's also a link to a list of every transporter that's been licensed in the state. So for some reason, able to do it, we've got a few different ways to contractor out there to take care of it. So some of the examples or how DEP typically gets involved, most often this is through a tier 1. We'll get called to provide assistance. Sometimes that assistance is a field response. We need you out here. Sometimes it's being able to provide assistance over the phone, whether it's to the fire department who relays it to the homeowner or the device owner, or we are able to provide that information to the owner of the device directly. Here's some different examples where we've been able to do that. There was, for example, a Tesla fire out in Norwell. That was a field response. A response out in Chicopee where there was actually a homeowner's device. It was just a fire reacted from being overcharged. And that was a situation where we did a field response and we actually hired one of our contractors to be able to contain and handle that material and dispose of that as hazardous waste. There was a e-motorcycle not too long ago out in Amesbury. That was, again, we were able to provide that information about the contractors to the owner. Oh, so it's a phone response. Again, the generator, the power generator, portable power station. And then there was, I believe it was the scooter in Brockton. It actually caused a house fire. And then we actually were able to provide the list of the contractors to the insurance company because the insurance company was having the haz waste contractor come out for disposal. And that was actually a situation where they weren't going to be able to go out for a couple of days. And so DEP and the fire department said, hey, all right, well, we'll have this contained in the, I think it was contained in water and covered in a drum in the back of the property. It wasn't going to cause, wasn't a concern for reignition to any other material. So that was a good way to manage it as well. Again, I think it just highlights the continued cooperation that we've been having, and I'm sure we're going to continue to have as we continue over the years as more and more of these events are occurring. What I wanted to talk a little bit about was that field response at the Tesla dealership. So this happened in Norwell. The fire took place inside the building. Actually, a technician was doing a repair and drilled down, and it actually drilled into the battery. So it was into the top of the battery, caused the fire. In this case, there's also floor drains, a tight tank, and a bunch of catch basins outside the facility. It's also located just 500 feet away from the public water supply. So again, lot of issues here. In this case, they used about 10,000 gallons on the initial response. Once that fire was put out, they were able to building. They relocated it to the parking lot, and then there was reignition. And let's see if it doesn't seem to be. I'm not able to do I had a nice little video to show the reignition and then how it was coming out underneath the bottom, because it actually caused or triggered a brush fire as well in the adjacent area. So they had to spend about another 4,000 gallons that they estimated just to put that out. Oh, I did do, sorry, I didn't realize this, different kind. So you can see, got to show you something fun, right? Beats my slides. So some of the interesting things here. So from our standpoint, you had the dealership, a wetland to this little other water body, and then the drinking water supply was here. So there were a lot of other concerns outside of the typical event that might occur. And in this case, we had the dealership hire a licensed site professional and a cleanup and a firm, and they did a bunch of sampling. They sampled the catch basins, they sampled the initially, and they were looking at the lithium, the cobalt, and the nickel, excuse me. And then they did some additional sampling after that where they added the fluoride. And it turns out that one of the catch basins had elevated levels of the lithium and the fluoride. And they had to do some more sampling of the soil, of the groundwater, of the surface water. And ultimately, they were able to determine that there hadn't been, they removed any of the impacted material, the soil as well, or material that was in the catch basins, the liquid and any sediment that was in there as well. Ultimately, there ended up no impact to the environment or to the pond or for the drinking water. And interestingly enough, they had a Tesla technician come out to disassemble and secure the battery pack. And what they did was they put all the components into tubs which had the salt solution, and that completed all the and waited till it was fully discharged from that. Then they drummed up the water and all the battery components and had that transported off-site as hazardous waste for disposal. So, you know, sometimes this was an example where an awful lot of work that was done from an environmental standpoint. So I just wanted to, you know, sort of highlight that's sort of like the high end of what we might be looking at in a situation like that, in particular with the sensitive receptor so close by. The other issues, I think we've touched on this, and it's really happening nationally across all the states and the federal level as well. Everybody's struggling with how are you dealing with disposal? And as you know, the manufacturing has just been taking off, and tons of money is being put at building more and more battery devices and electric power and battery huge facilities, and some large battery recycling facilities. But nobody's really talking about how do you handle the disposal and the transport of the damaged, defective, and recalled, the DDR lithium-ion batteries. And that's sort of happening at the national level too, playing catch up. And that's why I think it was really important Mass DEP was able to work and come up with that guidance that at least in the interim right now, until there's more guidance available from the federal level, we have that guidance that we'll be able to continue working with you folks with in terms of having the haz waste contractor be able to collect it and transport it and dispose of it as haz waste. But we're also seeing issues come up with, even on the highways, with fires or accidents. Tow companies, sometimes they have to call a few tow companies to be able to get somebody that's going to be able to take it because of the issues with who can bring it, do they have the space, insurance, and things like that for the tow yards. The other bit is ferries and container ships. And there's been a lot, we've seen examples over the past year or plus, and there's been a lot of conversation at the state level too with various agencies and partners. We've been involved with the U.S. Coast Guard, with the area committee, Plymouth to Salisbury area committee, where we had a big exercise where it was a fire on a container ship, ran aground. There was a fire, there was lithium-ion batteries, and how would that be handled? And most recently, just the other day, 2 days ago, Sector Southeast, Massachusetts and Rhode Island area committee meeting, there was an exercise on the Block Island Ferry. How would that, an EV fire on a Block Island Ferry, how would that be handled from a response and from an environmental standpoint? And actually, Hyannis was at that day as well, at that exercise. So there's a lot of conversations that are taking place. The reality is, there's no one way. There's no answer. There's no set way to do it. There's no best management practices, because it's all going to be depending. Right? It's dependent on where the vehicle is. Is it by itself? Is it right next to other EVs? Was it seen right away? Can you throw the blanket over it? Oh, you can't, because it's been too long. It's already too hot. People don't have gear to be able to do that. So now you're just letting it burn, and then you get people, you've got passenger issues, you've got structural stability issues about the ferry because that steel isn't rated for the the high temperature of an electric fire, is that going to collapse into the below deck? And now you've got a bigger issue with fuel and everything else. And now you've got a sunken vessel. I mean, there's all these different factors that you end up, you don't know. And people are going to be, we're going to have to continue to have these conversations and working together, because it's really going to be, you're going to is when you're doing it, because you don't know what all the what ifs are, and it's more having the conversations and keeping the conversations going, so you can at least think about what are the things we need to think about when we're responding. And the environment point, you're putting thousands of gallons of water on a e-vehicle in the middle of the channel, or are they pushing it out and just having it be, and you're going to salvage the vehicle later from the bottom? And from that standpoint, from the metals issue probably isn't going to be as much of a concern then as you might have when you're in a very large ocean body, as if it's at shore or in a sensitive environment, or where there's agriculture or aquatic culture, excuse me, or if it's now affected many other cars. I got a lot of petroleum spills, so a lot of things that have to be thought about. The other piece, just to again, I think we're starting to see the large battery storage facilities, and there, we're focusing on e-bikes. You're looking at large, huge storage facilities, and the chemistry can be very different for whoever's storing it. And you could have different types of the battery themselves could have different components. For example, the one in Carver is going to be lithium iron phosphate. So it's not just, oh, they're being new ones are being cited. I think it's on all of us to think about what is it going to mean from our standpoint if there's some type of a response from an environmental issue there. And you guys need to make sure your PPE and you're responding, and what the chemistry is for the makeup, so that you're being protected as well. So lots of different things. I think we're just getting a lot of starting the conversation and keeping it going. So just wanted to really kind of highlight those things. If people have questions, I'm sure we'll be talking more. I did leave my contact information, and then Marcus Henry is also work with him very closely he's somebody in the hazardous waste group. So if you ever have a question about any of the haz waste, if I'm not able to answer it, please feel free to reach out to Marcus. He'll be able to address any questions. So thank you.
Thank you.